Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast/webcast. With me for another round is Shayna Champman of Shayna Co. Welcome back to the podcast, Shayna.
Hi, thank you, Ed.
Well, when last we spoke, it was, I think, week one of the Great Suppression, as I like to refer to it. We had just hunkered down and you had gotten everybody laptops and were busily working back to at least you were comfortable talking to one another on. But what's happened in the 3 months since? Or it seems like 3 years, but it's been 3 months.
It really does seem like it's been a long time, doesn't it? It's even, I feel like summer has even passed us by. I don't even know what season we're in exactly. Well, we spent a long time at home, and then in the end, two of my staff are back in office in very separate parts of the office with masks and all the things that are needed. And I'm still mostly at home, and another one of us are still at home, and an intern is just working on an as-needed basis rather than being in the office full-time. So there's been some changes, of course, not only the way we work, but also some opportunities that came out of this to change the way we do things with clients, and some opportunities in the way we wanted to run our office regarding like office hours and those kind of things with clients. So there's been some changes over that time period that we actually want to keep.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about those. What were a couple of those things that you've changed?
Well, so we always had the technology in place, or we had always worked towards having the technology in place to be remote, but we weren't actually all remote. And so, as we talked about in the last one, we had to figure out how to implement that technology. We got that accomplished, and I'm very proud of my team for doing it. Then we had to train some clients on the fact that we were now going to be more remote. And I'm very proud of our clients for stepping up. There were clients that I wasn't sure knew how to turn on a computer that now communicate via video chat. And we use Microsoft Teams to actually exchange information. And so that's been very big. But now that I have some of my team members actually in the office, we're still communicating like that. We still have our doors shut just because we have no need to take those risks. We have taken the office hours totally off the door. We have no set office hours now. The general feeling is if you're going to contact us, do it somewhere between 8:30 and 4 p.m. Try not to bother everybody at all hours of the day. But no more is there a need for office hours. We're a smaller office anyway, and you can get a hold of us in 9 million different ways of communicating, from telephones to all the different ways technology-wise. And so that was one of the big things. I peeled the office hours off the door, and they're not coming back. And we're all very happy that we don't have to take lunch between 12 and 1 p.m. or, some of the old ways the offices run. And then also we have come to realize we really enjoy meeting clients virtually. There's so much we can do with a virtual meeting that it's actually a little easier to show them how to do things, to share screens and to take over screens, than it is to look over somebody's shoulder in an office atmosphere. You can zoom in on things a lot easier. And so I think we're going to stick with that a lot more than saying, hey, come into the office and we'll train you for 3 hours. I think we're going to do a lot more virtual trainings. So there were some opportunities that came out of this that we have grasped and are going to keep doing.
And how are your customers doing overall? Everybody, well, first of all, well and safe, but then also from a financial perspective as well.
Yeah, we've still been pretty lucky here with everything that's going on. We've got our own surge happening now. We've got more than double the confirmed cases in 1 week, in the last week. So people are starting to tighten back down. But our clients have all done really well health-wise. We haven't had any issues. My team has been well health-wise, no issues there. The problems that we did have, though, with all this shutdown is we've had some issues for clients. We have lost, not because of us, but because of the shutdown. We're going to lose a couple of CAS clients, and that's larger money. That's not small money. That's not just, after the fact bookkeeping or a few payrolls. That's our bigger billing that we count on for the month, and there are two of those that are going to go away. And that's just one of the things that happened. I've had a couple of clients that are on the verge of losing homes, going bankrupt and losing homes, and add in there all the different tax complications from the IRS being shut down. It's been really kind of hard for our clients and for us. Although I have to say, most of my clients don't recognize any of that. They've done pretty well and just have kept on trucking along. And so it's not the majority of them, but the ones that's hit, it has hit hard.
And when you say you're losing some of those CAS customers, are they going out of business or are they deciding to bring the stuff in?
They're going out of business. They've just decided now's the time to go out of business. They may go work for somebody else for a while. They might come back, but they worked in areas of the economy that just didn't make it. And so they're going to shut down. Maybe it was the airline industry or contracting, where they go into new retail stores, which aren't a good thing right now. And those just aren't firing up. And the PPP loans kept people hanging for a little while, but they didn't really solve the problems for those people that were extremely shut down. Basically no business at all. It helped the people that could operate a little bit, but those that were really shut down, they're shut down. They're done.
Yeah. So even the extensions of PPP and all of that stuff, that's just not going to cover it for the long term. I think that's what we're starting to see through really too.
Yeah, and now where we're having the second surge, we're worried again because we're just now trying to get our feet under us and feel okay. And now it's starting to get worrisome that we're going to have round 2 of this. And maybe I'm just being negative, but it seems like that's the talk on the national media and social media, and again, even locally, where we haven't had that many cases, but suddenly we've doubled them in 1 week, and people are starting to worry. So everybody's going back in, and that's not helping. And there's only one round of PPP funds. And the EIDL money didn't turn out to be as great as everybody thought it would be, didn't help immediately. And so, as always, we just kind of wait to see what happens. And there's people too that have filed tax returns that haven't gotten their refunds. Maybe there was some kind of error resolution. They didn't, so it got put into that department. That department at the IRS isn't working, and they're sitting there waiting on maybe a $12,000 refund, and they can't get their money back to survive because the people at the IRS aren't working to give them, to pass the resolution to get the money. It's just a whole calamity of events that are making it difficult.
I thought it was interesting that if the IRS was late paying you, there's no interest and penalties for them. But
well, it's the IRS. Tends to work one way.
yeah, it tends to. On the tax returns, and the extension moved out to the 15th. Is it like the week before April 15th now for you, since we're talking on the July 7th?
Well, so I'll tell you, I originally thought, I don't care when the deadline is. Whatever. I can see some firms having issues with this, and you see it on our peers on social media complaining about we need more time. And I thought, I just went ahead and we extended everybody on the original due dates. We just extended them then, so we weren't at least in the extension chaos right now. That's done. But the problem that we are having is we still can't get some of the tax returns done, and that's going to create a penalty situation here after July 15th. For those that we can't figure out, we can't get them accomplished because there was just too much, and it's really on us, CPAs. It's not because the clients weren't ready. They were ready, they were done in March or April, even if that's behind the normal deadline. But we were just so covered up trying to help people. And I mentioned those people that had really dire situations. We were so covered up with that, I had to push my tax clients on the back burner. For a lot of those tax clients, it didn't matter. They don't owe money. It's not a big deal. But for some of those tax clients, it matters. And so we don't want them to have penalties and interest because we've been dealing with all these other things and not been able to pay attention to them. That's not really fair to them. But unfortunately, what we're doing now is just working really hard, like tax season, to try to get those out and get those paid for them. But it's unfair to us, and I hate to say that because it sounds like I'm whining, and I don't mean to whine, but we've just been working so hard. My team has been working so hard. It does feel slightly unfair then to try and get all these tax returns and things out when we didn't really create the problem. The government shutting us down created the problem, rightfully. so probably, but nonetheless, it wasn't my client's fault. It goes back to, there's the part in the penalties where there's the code section, I can't think where it is, where it says you should only be penalized on, if you can show that the person, the taxpayer, was actively doing something and showing neglect. This isn't one of those cases, and I would argue every single time, this isn't one of those cases. It wasn't neglect that got this taxpayer behind and not able to pay his taxes. It was rather situational with everything that happened within the shutdowns and stuff. I'm not sure that the IRS would agree with that and dismiss the penalties, but those are certainly the types of letters that I will be writing if need be. But yeah, instead, we're back to very little sleep and trying to crank out tax returns. And not to keep talking, but to add on to that, we do have a whole faction of clients who are really good clients that have been really patient, but they just want their returns. They don't understand. They're not having problems. They're not losing homes. They're not going to lose, their businesses. All they know is it's now July and they still don't have a return. And it doesn't matter how many times you say, I'm triaging these returns. Please give me time. There are people that are really having real problems. Life goes on and they want their returns. Or the auditors want the numbers, or something else, the banks want the numbers. And so we still got to get those out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a real challenge there, and I hope that for your sake and for your customers' sake, that your letter writing campaign does some good. Maybe there'll even be some specific relief on anyone who's watching or listening to this. So we've got some friends at the AICPA. If I'm sure Shayna would be very happy if you could lend a hand by maybe doing some lobby work on behalf of customers and CPAs.
Yeah,
and challenged.
My hope is I really don't have very many of those situations, but I now understand, even when I wasn't as concerned, I knew bigger firms, there was probably a good chance where they have a whole lot of tax clients that could be a problem. But we are butting up against that, and I'm starting to see, even when I thought we might be able to get through it, that even as Pollyanna, I guess I was a little bit Pollyanna. We didn't quite make it through either. So as I tell my clients, we'll cry little tears on the paper and rub the tear stains in before we mail them, and hope, and beg for forgiveness and hope for help. But generally speaking, it's certainly busy. We're trying to push everything through. So, and stay up with our normal stuff, right? Because it's July. We want to know how 2020 is doing. So we still have that work to get done as well.
Yeah, I still think there's probably lots of shifts and changes that are going to happen through the rest of 2020 for sure. We don't. Of course, the big date, at least for me, and I know for you, are the kids going to go back to school on time? And what does that do to change small businesses and small firms if for whatever reason moms and dads have to be teachers in the fall?
Yes, that's true. And with my team, I'm a little lenient about when they come and when they go. And we had to go through all that already early in the spring. And hopefully I feel like we worked through those kinks pretty well. Long term, though, that would be difficult to deal with every day, and just the mental pressure of that on the parents is tough to do. I know for me, I have a kid in high school, and I felt bad sitting here working and him trying to be in school at the same time, and then would knock on my door and say, "Mom, I need help," and I'd be like, "No, I'm working." You can't. No help from me. But he didn't have anybody else to help him. And so that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to work and do both. And it'll be interesting to see this fall. I'm still waiting to hear what's going to happen. Here in Ohio, we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and before we wrap up, Shayna, any other advice to other small business owners and especially accountants as you look forward to the next 3 to 6 months? What you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I have realized is that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to tell your clients the truth that you're not okay, and hopefully they get it. It's okay to recognize that some people are not going to understand, and maybe that's a relationship you need to cease. I've come to terms with that with a few people, and not to let it take over my life. negatively, because this is hard on us as well. And I don't, again, not mean to whine, but it is hard. And secondly, I tell my business owners, it's okay to go smaller. It's okay to go backwards to save your business so that we can, again, grow it later. Don't be afraid to do what you have to do. It's unfortunate if you have to cut employees or cut back a business or let go of people. But if that's what's going to save you in the end, then that's going to make you a better, all the way around business in the end. And that's going to be better for everybody, the community, your family, everyone. Don't be afraid to take those steps and go smaller to go larger later. No, don't worry about that.
Well, great advice from Shayna of Shayna Co. Thanks as always for your insight and your sunny disposition, literally in the case of those watching on video. We really appreciate you being a guest on the Sage Advice podcast.
Thanks so much, Ed. I really appreciate you having me. I enjoy it every time. I always enjoy our conversations.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.